For his first 2 years at the hillside monastery, Rohan's progress was quiet and steady. He woke early, studied with focus, and found a private satisfaction in the work. Not because he was the fastest, but because he was moving. Then Dev arrived. Dev was sharp and effortlessly confident. He mastered complex teachings on the first hearing and drew constant praise from the senior monks. Suddenly, he was the only name anyone spoke about. Rohan began hyper-fixating on Dev's habits. He watched how Dev sat, how he phrased his questions, and balanced study with rest. His world narrowed until his own practice was no longer about his goals, but about Dev's. This is the illusion of comparison. You lose nothing, and yet, because you've looked at someone else's life, what you have feels like it has been stolen from you. Rohan began frantic attempts to replicate Dev's routines. He forced himself to wake earlier and tried to mimic Dev's style of questioning, masking his own natural rhythms with a borrowed case. The consequences were immediate. His focus broke during prayers, his answers became uncertain, and the 2 years of progress he had built felt as though they had never existed. One evening, Rohan sat alone on the stone steps and admitted his failure to the old master. He had worked harder than ever, yet he was only getting worse. Systemic failure is the only result of abandoning your own established baseline to mimic a rhythm that is incompatible with your own. The next morning, the master took him to the monastery's northern gate, where 2 paths began. One led through an open field toward a river, the other turned toward the hills and the forest. The master's instructions were simple. Walk the narrow, uneven field path and keep your eyes locked strictly on the terrain ahead. For a while, Rohan walked well. The ground was difficult, filled with stones and dry patches of grass, but his steps remained steady because he was managing the path directly beneath his feet. Navigating difficult terrain requires an unbroken feedback loop. When your vision stays on your own path, your actions can remain precise. Then, Rohan caught a glimpse of another monk on the forest path through the trees. Without thinking, he turned his head to look. The moment his eyes drifted sideways, his foot caught the edge of a stone. He stumbled off the trail and into the dry grass. This created a cycle of friction. He had to stop, find the path again, and restart his walk, only to repeat the stumble the moment he looked at the forest path again. The master halted the exercise. He asked Rohan a simple question. What caused you to step off the path both times? The mechanical rule is absolute. Lateral attention inevitably disrupts forward momentum. The other monk on the forest path hadn't looked over once. His speed compounded because he walked his own path, focused entirely on what was ahead. To understand why this matters, we have to look at the geometry of these 2 paths. They share an origin, but they represent 2 different personal vectors. A vector being a quantity that has both a specific direction and a magnitude. If you try to match the speed of someone on a diverging path, you aren't just moving faster, you're accelerating yourself off your own route. You are chasing a direction that was never yours to begin with. Dev's path was built by his unique history and internal baggage. Rohan's path was built by his. One path is not better than the other, they simply lead to different places. Judging your progress against someone on a different personal vector is a logical fallacy. Rohan looked at the vast distance between the 2 paths. He finally understood that the forest path was no longer even visible from where he stood. The instinct to look sideways didn't vanish instantly. But now, when it happened, Rohan remembered the stone under his foot. He caught the distraction and corrected his gaze before he lost his footing. Your terrain is the only one that matters. Today, you can choose to keep your eyes on your own path instead of looking sideways. True mastery is not the elimination of distraction, but the rapid, conscious correction of your focus back to your own trajectory.